Buying Pokemon collections is a huge part of our business strategy. And I'm just gonna talk about some of the dangers of buying binder collections. Yo, what up? My name is Dave, and I am co-owner of DKTCG Cave. I'm a Whatnot streamer, and today we're gonna talk about collections. If we buy a collection, it's gonna be through eBay because there is buyer protection, and that's really important. We recently purchased a vintage collection, and we're gonna go over some of the conditions and stuff, but in the description, it said, the vintage are in good shape. Okay. Anytime somebody says good shape, they're in good shape, good condition, that to me, that just means they're not damaged. And that's really important in the vintage world. A card that's damaged versus good condition is double the money, triple possibly, depending on the card itself. So you could have a card that's worth $70, $80, but because of a small bend or crease, that card is now considered damage and would never go for that good condition price. You know what I mean? When you're buying collections, make sure that you're on a platform that guarantees some type of safety for the buyer. Let's get into some of the things that you need to understand before purchasing a collection. Okay, but before you start looking at the conditions, you start really analyzing what that collection is worth. Don't waste too much of your time. Screen through the photos, make sure it's something that you like and the price point is fair. And then you can negotiate. But once you look at all the photos and you decide that that's the collection you like, read the description and make sure that they're very thorough. Yeah, almost all the cards were damaged and we just couldn't accept it. It's something that we would take a huge loss on, and it's not our fault that the photos that were provided looked good and the description said they were good. You know how it is when it comes down to collections. You're just taking consistent photos of hundreds or thousands of cards depending on how big the collection is. That is one of the scary parts of dealing with collections, is receiving it and some of the key cards that makes that collection valuable have damage. And in that case, you need to take photos, detailed photos, and say, you know, in the description, it didn't say anything that there was this many cards damaged. Be specific, take good photos, count the number of cards, report back. Just say, and be respectful. I'm sure you've heard this before. First impressions mean a lot. Depending on how you talk to somebody initially depends on how they react. So if you start off by saying, yo, this collection is trash, you're trying to scam me and blah, 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 I want my money back. I don't know what type of communication classes that you receive throughout your life, but that's just not how you communicate with people. The next time you get angry at a seller, try reaching them out like this. Hello, I recently purchased your collection. I received it in the mail. The package arrived safely. However, when I was going through the collections, I came across many cards that were damaged and it didn't put it in your description. You know, unfortunately, I would love to keep this, but there's just too much damage and I'm gonna have to initiate a return. You know, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I hope you understand. Take the photos, do the initiation, but you've already started it on a good note, okay? You're not being an asshole, you're not being a jerk, you're just stating respectfully the situation at hand and how you're gonna handle it. While you're scaling up, you don't bank everything on one collection. Don't do that. Okay, divide your capital into different things. That's why I always talk about investing portfolio. At its core, it can get extremely complicated, but at its just simply basics, all you're saying is, hey, I have this much vintage, I have this much sealed, I have modern, I have slabs, I have air. You're just categorizing the type of inventory you have, and that's your portfolio. If you ever get into buying collections, you have to think like a chess player. You have to think a couple moves ahead. And that has everything to do with just business in general. I'm not planning for my next move. I'm planning for the next quarter. Okay, I'm planning for the next half. I'm planning for the next year. All right, there's different inventory for different stages. If you just play everything day to day with no planning and just see how it goes, I'm sure you could maybe make it work. I don't know how. I can't do that. There's no way in hell I would be able to live day by day and just not having a goal or plan in order to achieve for the next quarter, or inventory. I'm trying to lock down certain things for an upcoming event. We have a Whatnot show that is 3 days or 4 days in a row, all promoted Whatnot shows. We started, as soon as we heard about it, we started buying collections, and we got 2 to 3 in order to help with that type of inventory. And now we have 2 to 3, actually 2 collections that we have to return. We have a collection that is good, and the other ones we gotta return because it's just not as described. If it wasn't for me planning for that extra collection, we might have been screwed. So remember, think a few steps ahead. Buying collections is great, but very risky. So start off small and don't buy anything too big where you can get overwhelmed. And you need money flow before you start buying collections, okay? Start understanding money flow, how important it is. All right, later. That's it.